So other than, I'm kind of curious because while I have seen consecutive shows of a Pearl Jam tour, I've never seen them back to back in the same city.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of just curious what sort of that mindset is. You have a day off in between, and kind of like what your thoughts are being in the same city, going to see them again. Like, what's that energy like? What are your expectations going into a second show in the same city?
That's a perfect question, and it leads me to something that I forgot to talk about. So when we arrived on Saturday, we couldn't walk 5 steps without seeing somebody in a Pearl Jam shirt. It was like a Pearl Jam convention had taken over the entire city.
Yeah.
There were mostly dads and their kids and some wives, but mostly dads, just not only being there for Pearl Jam, but wearing it loud and proud. Um,
I
you know,
think we
on the
talked about that like after I went to the Indianapolis show and we talked about it. I said I don't think there's any band whose fans wear the shirt of the band they're going to see more than Pearl Jam.
and I've never seen fans buy more merch in my entire life.
Yeah,
There were like guys who are probably doctors and lawyers and whatever else buying every single shirt and every single poster, and then carrying it all away to squirrel away in their hotel room,
yeah,
so that they could prove to everybody that they could wear nothing but Pearl Jam every day of a week.
yeah,
Um, it was just unbelievable. I did buy one T-shirt. I'm usually not merch guy. I bought a
yeah,
T-shirt and I bought
yeah.
a poster directly from the artist after the fact, so that it would get shipped to my house because I flew. I didn't want to fly with a poster tube.
Tube. Yeah,
Um, and honestly, I don't. I'm not the Pearl Jam fan that wants to wear the Pearl Jam shirt all the time. I'll probably wear that
yeah.
thing a few times. I might actually frame it. It was a cool shirt.
So my next question, and maybe this is hard to answer now that you sort of know what they did play on night two, but was
Mhm.
there any songs that you were disappointed you didn't get that you were like, God, I hope they get to that in night two?
Black.
Oh,
Black
yeah,
was the one on the left on the floor on the table that I wanted to hear, and spoiler alert, I got to hear it.
yeah.
So it was really good.
Were there any songs that you wanted to hear again? I'm just kind of curious. Like, I
Oh,
mean,
that's a good
you
question.
probably knew you were going to get some of the Dark Matter stuff a second time, but like,
I would love to hear Given to Fly every single show that I ever see Pearl Jam ever.
yeah,
That's my live song. It's probably it's probably not my favorite Pearl Jam song of all time. And then of all the songs that I wanted to hear live that I absolutely almost unequivocally knew that I would never get to hear, was probably Sirens
yeah,
or Amongst the Waves. I just knew that those weren't going to hit the set list.
yeah. I'm actually surprised they don't play Sirens more.
It's a
This is
really weird guitar tuning from what I
yeah,
understand.
okay, makes sense. But
Not
yeah,
that that's not an impediment to a band like Pearl Jam with 17 guitar techs, but
right, sure. So cool. Yeah. Well, so then,
now I'm going to be honest. In my old man brain, where like I've got a real job and I have all these responsibilities and I'm away from my family. I have two sons, one who's 14 and one who's 12, and I'm really kind of like really using up a lot of my dad equity to take this trip and be gone for 4 days. So by Monday, I was kind of like getting that anxiety going, I probably should have just come to one show. Probably should have gone home. It was really selfish and greedy of me to stay for 2 shows. Not
yeah,
even the money, like the time and
sure,
putting my wife out with all the responsibilities while I'm gone. But
sure.
that's just between us. Don't tell anybody I said that, okay? Because
Right.
next time a trip comes up,
Well, they also, again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but they definitely paid you off with a pretty epic show in night two.
yeah.
So,
All right, so let's do it. They open with elderly woman.
which is an
Strip.
awesome. I've seen them open with that. I love that as a show opener because
I
you
was
get the crowd.
shocked it was an
You get
opener.
you get. I think it was Cleveland. I think it was Cleveland. I saw them do it. 06.
It's a hell of a
maybe.
sing along.
Maybe, yeah, it's awesome way to get the band. So Ed pretty much let the band do the entire second verse for him when it was. I thought that was an awesome way to open a show, actually.
Yeah.
And
So,
then
and then straight into Even Flow.
that's
And
amazing. As the
yes.
second song of the night being Even Flow, like holy shit, like just jumping right into no warm up for that one, just right
Yeah.
into it.
And then into Daughter, into Animal, into Save You, into Immortality, into Corduroy. So I
Oof.
felt like I got a mini version of the Vitalogy show,
Yeah.
a little Vitalogy heavy. Immortality is one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs. It's in terms of a live song, it's maybe not as clean a pick in a set list because it definitely changes the energy of the building. But it's awesome. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure.
But to
Like,
follow it up with Corduroy is pretty perfect.
yeah. And so, like, at that point, you're probably almost feeling like your chances of getting Not For You were probably slipping away at that point. But you
Yes.
actually, well, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit
No, it's
again,
fine.
but
Yeah, they played React Respond, Running, and then straight into Not For You, and then Wreckage. And Not For You, it's a, I know I'm a broken record on this, but you want to talk about a song that completely lost its meaning.
yeah.
Here we are in a baseball stadium, the ultimate sign of selling out, um, and all happily doing so.
For sure. And like, Not For You is still like one of the coolest songs because, like, musically, like, there's not that much to the song.
No,
The verse and the chorus are essentially the same. It's uh it, it it like it's not like the most intricate song, but like it's intricate in its simplicity in that way. Like, it's really clever song structure and song design. And that song just always just crushes live. I got to see that at Indianapolis. I was stoked. And yeah, you got to see it here night too.
so I would say for me, and I'm jumping ahead too, but I would say for me, night two was more of my dark matter payoff. Night one was my fan service payoff. I think
Yeah.
night two was more of the dark matter because they played. All right, I'm jumping ahead. They played Wreckage. They played. So this is the part of the set list where I think it's more of an Andrew set list than a Craig set list. They played Untitled in present tense. And I'm going to let you talk about it because you know more about those two songs and playing Untitled. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you talk about it.
So Untitled is essentially a pre-tag. So Pearl Jam they'll do lots of tags on their song, like Better Man. They'll put Save It for Later at the end, or whatever. Not For You, you got Modern Girl. I got It's Okay. Daughter, they'll do like Another Brick in the Wall. So they always do like these tags. Well, Untitled is a pre-tag to MFC. So on the Live on Two Legs live album is like the first time I ever heard it, but they played it a lot on the Yield tour. So MFC, song on Yield, it is not preceded by Untitled on the album, but live they were always playing this song called Untitled first, and it really is just a simple intro. It's not like a full on song. It's just this really pretty intro that leads just perfectly into MFC. And so what's interesting is they played Untitled here, but they did not follow it up with MFC. They followed it up with Present Tense. And I believe, to my knowledge, that is only the second time they have ever played Untitled without following it up with MFC. So
That's
that
just
in
a
and of
nod to the super
itself
fans.
is a super rare thing. To just throw Untitled randomly into the middle of a set list. Very interesting. But it
It's
kind
like a
of,
complete Easter egg, you know?
yeah, for sure. Now, what's interesting about that, like, I'm trying to remember, but like, so Ed does not play guitar at the start of Present Tense.
I don't think so, no.
Does he play guitar at all on Present Tense? I'm trying to remember if that's an Ed guitar song or
I
not.
can't remember.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but obviously, like the whole first verse
also
is verse is just Mike on guitar, and then slowly the band comes in as the song builds. But so if Ed is playing guitar, it's not till the crescendo at the end. So what's interesting,
but also
about
as he gets older, I feel like Ed takes some liberties and picks up the guitar sometimes when he didn't in the old days.
For sure. But I was just curious about that because obviously Untitled is Ed playing guitar and singing. So it's kind of from that standpoint, maybe it's not as natural of a flow into MFC because Ed plays the intro guitar part to MFC as well. So it kind of makes sense there. It's a little bit different, but sonically I can see that working as an intro to Present Tense.
So then this is where the Dark Matter payoff comes. I got to hear Won't Tell live.
I'm very jealous of that.
I very much wanted to hear that one live. They played if you've seen any pictures from the show, the moon looked absolutely insane up over Fenway. The pictures are absolutely incredible. And so they decided to play Super Blood Wolf Moon, which, all right, for me, I'm just going to go thumbs down on that one. I don't care about that song at all.
You weren't here for the Gigaton shout out?
No. But it worked. I mean, it made sense, and other people seemed to be happy, so I'm happy that they were happy. I don't want to complain too much.
Sure.
You know, out of 30 songs or 28 songs or whatever it was, they're entitled to kind of make some choices.
It's another Pokemon. It's another Pokemon card for you. You can knock it off the list.
I don't have to love everything. And then they absolutely crushed the end of the opening set. They once into Black, into the Neil Young cover, Fucking Up, to Porch.
And I mentioned this in the Porch is my absolute favorite main set ender. I love when they end a set with Porch. That's what I got at Indie. Like Rearview Mirror, they do a lot as in that role, and I really do like Rearview Mirror a lot live, and it works in that role. Corduroy they'll do sometimes there, but like for me, Porch is just the ultimate send off to the main set. Like I love that as a main set closer.
And so they enter the encore, which, as you talked about previously, it was just Eddie solo, and he opened with I Am a Patriot, which is the little Steven cover.
They have not been doing that. So they did that back in like 2003. They were playing it a lot. I saw it in Cleveland in 2003, I want to say. And I really love that cover. And I've been kind of missing it. Like I was kind of sad they don't really do it much. So I thought it was cool that Ed broke that out. It makes sense to do it in Boston, you know.
Yeah. And so then Glenn Hansard comes on and they do the Glenn Hansard song. It's technically the Swell Season song, Falling Slowly. It's from the movie Once. I couldn't be a bigger fan of that song. I'm a huge Glenn Hansard fan. When the movie Once came out and the Swell Season went on tour in celebration of the success of that, I went to a theater in Chicago and I saw the Swell Season. And Glenn Hansard, first of all, he opened, I don't know if he opened, but he grabbed his acoustic guitar, he walked in front of the microphones, he got everybody to be quiet, and he played Say It To Me Now, completely acoustic in the Chicago theater, and just blew the place up with that. But the big song from that movie and the big song was Falling Slowly. And I've watched YouTube videos of he and Ed doing that song before to kind of mixed results, but man, did they kill it. They have refined it. They've perfected it. Glenn Hansard sings the high parts. Glenn Hansard's the only guy in the world who can force Ed into the middle or low harmonies. And it just works. Yeah. It absolutely worked. And it felt like the whole crowd knew the song and was really into it. That after that, the band comes back on, they played Why Go, and then finally the ultimate Dark Matter payoff. I got to hear Waiting for Stevie live, which was just an absolute thrill. It's that like the fourth or fifth time they've played it ever, I
Yeah,
think.
it's not a ton. It's
Um,
pretty rare when they have it. And in no way am I jealous and upset about the fact that it was written on the Indianapolis set list and then they decided not to play it last minute. But
yeah.
that's life.
And then they played Crazy Mary, which is one of my favorite from with Sweet Relief. Was that
Sweet Relief. The
it's a
Victoria
Victoria Williams.
Williams.
Yep.
Yeah. I always get
Uh,
Victoria and Lucinda mixed up, but it
yep.
was Victoria. Yeah.
And then they played Unthought Known,
Which
Do
I
the
love that
Evolution.
song.
So this is another
Unthought.
Andrew one.
Oh my god, do I love that song? Like,
It's good. I love it too.
I gotta be honest. Like, I really feel like Backspacer gets a bit of a bad rap. I think that album is a lot better than fans give it credit for.
I
And
agree.
Unthought Known is absolutely one of my favorite songs on that album. I love when they play that song live. They don't do it very often anymore, but I think that song kills live. So very, very cool that you got that mixed in.
Yeah, that's an absolute underrated Pearl Jam record
Yeah,
from a relatively unremarkable period of the band, granted, but
for sure.
that's just a great, great album. All right, so then they do the Evolution again, Alive, Baba O'Reilly, the Who cover, and they close with Yellow Ledbetter one more time. And my only, you know, only somebody who's spoiled enough to go to two shows could be disappointed that they close with Yellow Ledbetter twice.
I thought for sure you were going to get Indifference the second night. I really
thought so
thought you were
too.
going to get that.
And so I'm left going, which show was better? I don't know. Like I said, the first one, I don't know that I could choose which one was better. I had better seats for the first show. There was more fan service in the first show, but like the Dark Matter payoff felt amazing. Hearing Waiting for Stevie live was just absolutely unbelievable. The version of Falling Slowly you did with Glenn Hansard was absolutely off the charts.
we we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that night 2 had 29 songs. Like,
yes,
they went all out. Like, that is an absolute marathon show for 2024 live Pearl Jam. Like, this show, like, I wasn't there obviously, but clearly it was a celebration of the end of the, I mean, they're playing Ohana Fest, but this was the end of the American tour for 2024, and they definitely chose to go out with a bang.
So the one thing that I asked you that I'm going to answer for myself now is, obviously I would love to see Pearl Jam more times, but if for some reason these two shows were the last time I ever got to see Pearl Jam live, I'm good, man. They were so good. These set lists were so good. The band was so on. And by the way, night 2, I forgot to mention this. It was a Stone Gossard night. Stone has embraced, and no shade. He's a man in his 60s and he's earned all the equity in the world, but he's in his full dad mode now.
Oh yeah.
But he was on. He was absolutely on night 2. Maybe he was celebrating the fact that this was the end of the tour. But you talk about how there are McCready nights and they're more frequent than any other than Ed, as goes Ed, goes Pearl Jam. Mike McCready carries a lot of shows because he's just so histrionic and so emotional and incredible when he's playing the guitar. But night 2 was an absolute Stone Gossard night. He was showing off. He was having a good time. You could just feel his energy from his side of the stage. And I felt like that was kind of a rarity too. The only other thing that I will say is that you and I are two of the biggest Josh Klinghoffer fans in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He was very understated. He was very much a backup member of the band this time, whereas the last time I saw them in Madison Square Garden in New York, I felt like he was really imposing his will. He was really aiding the band.
That's how I felt in Indianapolis about him.
And I don't think it's a shot at Josh. I think it's actually a testament to where the main members of Pearl Jam are today versus where they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like you are coming away from this feeling very much like I did, like really almost just in awe of where this band is in 2024 at this age to be able to perform this well. Still, it's so much more than we have any right to expect, or so much more than we deserve. It's just such a blessing that we've lost so much of that era of music that means so much to us, and to have this band still intact, still just bringing it night in and night out. It was funny. I don't know if you happened to see, but Pearl Jam was featured on CBS Sunday
I
Morning
did see that.
this weekend, and the last question the guy asked, it was Ed and Jeff, and the guy asked him, "So do you guys still love playing live?" And you see this hesitation, and they both kind of look at each other, and Ed just kind of laughs. He's like, "That's the wrong question to ask," or something like that. Like, I think it's clear, like, the sets are shorter. There's more breaks between the shows. They're not playing as many cities. They're in their 60s. This isn't easy for them, I don't think, anymore. But they don't let us see that when you go to the show. When you go to the show, they're giving us everything they have. And it's, I don't know, like, I don't know how I almost don't have the words to put into like the appreciation I have for the fact that we can still see this great band and that they're still doing their thing at this point. We should just cherish it, because we don't know that they'll tour again. I assume they will, but we don't
I
know.
don't know that I do. Would it
We're
shock
getting
you
to
if this was their retirement tour?
The only reason it would shock me is because Stone has talked about how enthusiastic he is to actually do another album. And I always feel like Stone is sort of the one you really need to get on board, because as much as Ed is, the front and center, Pearl Jam, to me, is only as great as Stone Gossard is involved. When Stone Gossard is energized and feeling a part of it, Pearl Jam is better for it. And for me, I see, like, this is going to sound hypocritical of me because of how much I praised Gigaton when it came out, but that was almost like special circumstances that what that album meant to me, coming out right in the heart of COVID lockdowns. But like, that album is very much not a Stone Gossard album. He only had one songwriting credit on the album. It's Buckle Up. To me, like, Gigaton was such a Jeff album, and like, I love that. Like, I love Jeff Ament. I'm a huge Jeff Ament fan, but like, you were missing that dynamic that Stone sort of brings to it. So this is a long-winded answer to your question, but Stone has talked in the press. He seems to be enthusiastic about another Pearl Jam album. I think Ed has made some comments that he thinks they've got another couple albums in them yet. So I think they might strike while the iron is hot. And maybe we won't even have quite as long of a wait for the next album. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. So I would be pretty surprised if they didn't tour again, but I would not be shocked if this was it.
Yeah. So, and I guess it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the energy and the vibes and the celebratory nature of the way this band felt interacting with each other and jumping around on stage, it could have been the Victory Tour. But also, maybe the vibes are just so good that they will keep going for a little while longer.
Right.
But I don't think we have 20 more years with Pearl Jam. I don't think it's the Rolling Stones. So, and it's that kind of energy that I felt in the audience, where everybody was really cherishing it. It's the energy I saw in the merch lines when people were just loading up. Everybody is just very grateful to have this band around, and it's not a cheap imitation. It's not Eddie Vedder's Pearl Jam. Like so many of these bands that have one original member and a backup band of hired guns. Like, this is essentially the same band that we fell in love with. Even the new guy, Matt Cameron, has been a part of that team.
He's the
for
old
a long
guy at
time.
this point.
And he was part of their community even before the band, even before he was part of the band. So
correct.
This feels like the original lineup.
It really does. It feels like Matt Cameron was the guy that was always meant to become the drummer of Pearl Jam. I think a lot of fans will always have Dave a special spot because he drummed on Versus and Vitology. Like he was the drummer for the height of Pearl Jam's popularity. And then
and stylistically, he's the way I think of Pearl Jam drumming still, even with Matt Cameron.
And I think that Jack Irons, while he's maybe not everybody's cup of tea as a drummer on a technical proficiency scale, I do think he was what the band needed at that time. And he delivered No Code and Yield, arguably my two favorite Pearl Jam albums. So you have to have a certain appreciation for that as well. But to me at this point, Matt Cameron, he's been the drummer since 1998. He is a Pearl Jam member. I don't even think of him as the Soundgarden guy anymore. He just feels like Pearl Jam's drummer. So yeah, this essentially what you see with Pearl Jam is still the core band to this day.
All right, last but not least, Saturday comes, I drag my old ass to the grog shop and I see Foxing, and I'm just going to leave it there because you and I are going to deep dive on that record, and I will talk about that show when we talk about the Foxing record. So that's your homework. Listen to the new Foxing record. You and I both love it, and we're going to talk about it a lot.
But yes, man, I have so much to say about that
minutes
album.
on the Pearl Jam.
So we're gonna have to punt. We're gonna have to punt on the Foxing Live, which is fine. We can tie it in with the album. So,
but just know that it was very difficult after so many shows over 4 days and all the travel and finishing off my week of work to drag myself out. But it was worth it. Always go to the show. It's hard.
Craig's a better man than I am. I wussed out. I was supposed to see him in Columbus Sunday night, but I didn't get back into town until late, and I was tired. And
Sunday night was tough, dude.
It was. I just couldn't quite get myself, and I have so much regret. It's not even funny. I thoroughly regret that I didn't go.
And you don't have this snazzy T-shirt that our friends on YouTube are seeing.
That's right. Unfortunately. I do have the album on vinyl though.
Ooh, look at you.
So,
all right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. Go to albumofrecord.com. That's our home base. Subscribe to the YouTube. Tell a friend. Help us make this thing grow. We're having a blast doing it, and we'll talk to you next time.